Hi everyone, my name is Anelise. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how I paid off $8,000 of debt in under a year. Back in October of 2024, my husband proposed to me and we set our wedding date for the end of August in 2025. At the time when my husband proposed to me, I was in school and I had racked up about $8,000 of debt, student loans, credit card debt. It was really important to me and to him that we went into marriage with zero debt whatsoever. That was a really high priority for us. So if you do the math, that gave me about 10 months to fully pay off my debt so that we could begin our journey of marriage completely debt-free. And I say all of this about marriage being the motivating factor to pay off my debt because having such a strong motivating factor is what really made it possible for me to pay it off in the first place. Before that, I didn't really have a specific reason that I wanted to pay it off. It wasn't affecting my life too much and I knew that I would get around to it eventually, but having this end date, this goal, this reason, we're getting married, we want to be debt-free, having a really strong why is part of why I was able to do it at all. It allowed me to stay focused and stay motivated and consistently prioritize it as I was making choices about how I spent and allocated my money that I was making. Now, at the time that my husband proposed to me, I was barely making any money. I was working part-time for a little bit more than minimum wage, and that just really wasn't cutting it. I wasn't saving any money, and of course I had this debt that I wasn't really paying down. So a lack of income was really my main limitation to actually paying this debt off, and understanding that allowed me to make the decision to pivot and get a job making more money and find ways to supplement my income. So the way that I did that at the time was by getting a higher paying job. I got a job that paid more and I started working more hours. I definitely did also cut my expenses back to a certain degree. I stopped eating out as much. I didn't really do any online shopping or shopping of any kind during this time that I was trying to pay down my debt. And I just tried to throw every extra bit of money that I could toward paying this debt off. Another huge benefit I had was that I was living with my mom at the time. This of course helped me to further cut back on my expenses and just keep moving the needle forward on paying off this debt. So in order to successfully pay off this $8,000 of debt in 10 months, it was super important, in my opinion, for me to have a budget to stick to. So as far as the budget goes, I started by looking at how much money I was bringing in, and then I calculated all of my non-negotiable expenses. So some of these are fixed, like car insurance, phone bill, any subscriptions that I had every single month. And then there are other expenses that fluctuate some. So I created a set amount for those categories. Things like gas, gas is always fluctuating in price. Groceries, that varies sometimes, but I kind of set a cap for myself on each of those things of how much I realistically could get away with spending, or how little I could realistically get away with spending in those areas. From there, I took the amount of debt that I had, I forget the exact number, but it was around $8,000, and I divided that by the number of weeks until the wedding. I got paid on a weekly basis, so that gave me a really trackable milestone, how much I wanted to be paying off every single week in order to make sure that I got my debt down to zero by the wedding. So this helped me to understand what percentage of my income needed to be going towards my debt every week. So if you're watching this and you have debt of your own that you want to pay off, or a financial goal like you want to save or something, I highly recommend running the numbers in this way, using the end date that you have and then calculating a per week or per month amount of money that you need to put towards that financial goal. Is really helpful to stay on track.
Hi everyone, this is Editing Anelise, and I just wanted to say that I made a little budget worksheet. If you're interested in using the budgeting method that I talk about in this video, I just have a link. It's free to download. It's in my bio. Definitely check that out if you're interested. Thanks.
It was nice to have that number and that guidance, but I definitely didn't adhere to it perfectly in practice. There were some weeks where something came up, so I spent more money on something else, and then I would come back to it. I was doing different little side hustles and side gigs at the time, so when I had extra money, I would put it towards my goal, and then that would bring my weekly totals down over time, if that makes sense. This strategy was really successful for me to the point where I still budget even now. I find it really, really helpful to have a sense of purpose for all the money that I make and know, generally speaking, speaking where it's going. In my experience, when I have money coming in, but I'm not consciously thinking about where it's supposed to go, I will end up spending it frivolously. A big example of this would be clothes. You know, in my last YouTube video, I did a huge closet decluttering video. I did a huge closet clean out and I got rid of, I don't know, half of my clothes. And these were clothes that were accumulated because I just had money burning a hole in my pocket. I went to the thrift store or I was shopping online and I just decided to buy something because I knew I had the money for it. Now I've more so started to take the time to figure out what my goals are, what my values are, and how I can use my money to facilitate those goals and to portray those values and to spend my money in a way that honors the values and goals that I have. And there's no one right answer to any of this. Some people really love fashion and love having lots of clothes and they wear them and they derive so much joy for them. There's nothing wrong with that at all. For me personally, I came to a point where I realized that I had much higher values than fashion, and while I did still want to have clothes that I love, clothes made out of natural fibers, those are all things that I value, the amount of clothes that I have and having a bunch of variety in my closet is not something that I value. Because realistically, I personally prefer to have clothes that I can wear in many different situations, that I can wear over and over again, and I prefer to have a wardrobe where basically every piece fits in with each other. Some people do that differently. Some people like to wear a wide variety of different styles, and that involves having more clothes. And in that instance, clothing is something that they would feel really good about spending a lot of money on. Another example of this for me would be eating out. I really enjoy eating out every now and then, but one thing that was important for me to shift is eating out as a matter of like pleasure and enjoyment rather than as a matter of necessity. So it has become really important for me to go grocery shopping and make sure that I consistently have the ingredients to make healthy meals that I enjoy eating so that I don't go out because I have no food in my fridge, if that makes sense. I go out when I want to go out because there's something really specific that I'm craving or an experience that I want to have, meeting with a friend, whatever it is. I've also come to find it very important to spend money on experiences. I've noticed a pattern in myself where the times when I am the happiest and the most excited and the most full of life is when I'm doing something new, when I'm learning something, when I'm challenging my brain, and when I'm getting outside really often. So those are things that I really like to prioritize and budget for. My husband is the same way. So that's something that we really go out of our way to allow and allocate money for in our budget. For example, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be starting banjo lessons. I've had a banjo for a couple years now and I've wanted to learn to play, and we have the money for it. We're budgeting for it, so I'm going to start doing it. All of that to say, I think that a budget is very important, but I also don't think that there's one right way to do it. I think it just makes sense for the way you spend your money to reflect the things that you love and want in your life. Now, the most important factor in my process of paying off this debt was the consistency factor. Making a budget is great. Figuring out how much money I need to make and getting a better job was all great. None of that was going to do anything unless week after week, day after day, month after month, I returned to my goal and I kept taking action toward it. So yes, in this season of life, I was thinking about my debt a lot. I tried not to be too stressed out about it, but it was definitely at the front of my mind. It was like my main focus in going to work, making money, budgeting, spending money. I was thinking about making sure that I could still pay off my debt. There were definitely a lot of things that I said no to at this time because I was saying yes to being debt-free. In order to say yes to being debt-free, I had to say no to certain outings, activities, or objects that cost a lot of money. I just wasn't doing it at the time. I was paying off my debt. And that's something that I found can be kind of difficult in this world of like instant gratification, more, gimme. It's definitely important to remember that doing something big, like paying off a big chunk of debt, does not happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in 1 week or 2. It doesn't even happen in 1 month. It takes time, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And one of my favorite sayings is, if you can't get out of it, get into it. And I had made a goal for myself to pay off this debt, so I kind of gamified it in a way by making that budget and that weekly quota, if you will, so that I had something to kind of cross off every week and be like, wow, I'm making progress, this is how much is left. And honestly, logging into my student loan account and seeing that number go down week after week, month after month was a really, really good feeling. I had a few different student loans and I paid them off one by one. So that was really fun too, to see, ooh, one of my loans is totally paid off, done and dusted. I only have X amount left. And I'll also mention here, I think this is a Dave Ramsey thing. It's called the snowball method, where you pick the smallest loan that you have to pay off and you start with that. I recommend that, as he also does. It's not my idea, but it's really helpful to start with the smallest thing first, because then you will pay that one off quicker than you would some of the bigger ones. And that feeling of success is very motivating. It's like, oh, I got one, now on to the next. So I do recommend that. So after weeks and weeks of paying off my debt, consistently showing up, working extra hours, switching my job to make more money, doing different side hustles, and finding ways to supplement my income, I can happily say that my husband and I got married completely debt-free, and we are currently living a lifestyle where we have no kids, no pets, no debt, and soon to be no rent, because we're going to be doing some traveling and kind of a van life type of thing. And I have been enjoying this life so much. And that was the goal of this whole thing. That was the entire reason why I wanted to pay off my debt, so that I didn't have to think about it. And instead I could think about what's actually happening in my life and engaging with and designing my life in a really conscious way. Right now, we live in a beautiful house that we are renting and we love it so much. And we are looking toward and planning our future together with the utmost intention, thinking about what would bring us the most joy and the most surprise and delight. We're looking at different ways to make money, different entrepreneurial pursuits, and how we can follow our passions and our interests and incorporate those into the daily rhythm of our lives. So that's all I have for you today, just a little quickie. I really hope that you found this helpful. There is plenty more that came from and plenty more coming, so please do make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, and comment down below anything specific that you would like to hear me speak on. I really appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.